it's overwhelming, but it's also our jobs.
Our job is only going to get harder.
It's worrisome.
This is something that's unprecedented.
Now is not the time to be a cowboy. No one has anything to prove. We're all in this together.
Welcome to reporting from the front line of a pandemic. I'm Katie Rhee, and I'm here with Maria Soares, a senior coordinating producer at ESPN International and ESPN Deportes. Maria, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And so we do want to acknowledge that these opinions are obviously of our own and not of the company that you represent, but we do appreciate you sitting down with us, especially taking the time out of your schedule. So my first question for you is, how have you had to adjust the way that you work?
Well, my main focus is event production. So there's been a huge adjustment because basically there are no sporting events right now. So it's been, kind of the emphasis and the main thing of what we're focused on has taken a totally different turn right now, because, we're not planning for events. We're not on site. A lot of our championships are on hold or canceled, and a lot of our seasons are just waiting to start. So we're kind of taking the time. We're calling it like a little bit of back to basics time, right? So we are trying to use the time constructively, and we're going back and seeing what we produced and kind of, offering feedback. We are organizing. We're trying to figure out, what kind of training, like virtual training, we can give our staff to make the most of this. It's pretty rare when you work on the event side, there's never downtime. I mean, you basically finish an event and you're right on to the next one. So to have this type of, I hate to call it downtime, but just not a lot of events happening time, it is a really, really rare thing. So we're just trying to use the time as best as we can for the benefit of the whole team.
And so you talk about a lot of downtime. So what does a normal year look like for you? I guess normal is a very loose term right now.
Yeah, I mean, this was, obviously there is no normal, but it's, every year is just crazy. I mean, again, being on the event side, and to give you an example, so the first 3 months of the year, I had traveled every single week for different events. And that is anywhere from, F1 meetings to the Super Bowl to, I oversee gymnastics and volleyball for the US business as well. So I was on the road every single week. So to go from that to not even knowing the next time I'm going to get on a plane is kind of weird. But also not only we were getting ready for championships, but also it's an Olympic year. It was a Euro year. So on top of our regular week to week events, we also had 2 really big summer events coming up that we were heavy in the planning for. So that would have 2020 in terms of what that would have represented was, a lot of our regular season coverage, but also really big coverage in Tokyo and really big coverage in Euro. And just, again, we do, the way my particular group works is we do pretty much every event. We are not, we don't just do 1 or 2 events. So our year is nonstop. We go from Super Bowl to getting ready for one, to getting ready for gymnastics championships, to getting ready for the NCAA championships. I mean, we are just one event after another, and that's what a normal year is. We don't have summers off. We don't have any of that. 2020 was definitely going to be a very big sports year. So it's very ironic that this is the year that this is all happening too.
And so was there any specific event that you were looking forward to the most? Because you said you travel a lot. So which one, I guess, were you looking forward to the most?
I was really, Olympics is by far my favorite sport. So I was really looking forward to Tokyo. So that definitely goes without saying. But I was also really looking forward to the NCAA gymnastics nationals. I've only been working on gymnastics for about a year, so that would have been my first completion of a full season. So I was really looking forward to that. But again, every sporting event is so great, but those 2 really stand out in my head as to 2 that I was really excited about.
Oh, I'm sorry that you can't go now. It's definitely disappointing for a lot of people. And so, how has your network, ESPN, dealt with covering all this news? Because I mean, I follow them on social media. I've been watching ESPN still. How have they dealt with covering all this news while also trying to keep people uplifted? Because sports is a very big uplifter for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's very interesting because if you see, obviously the network continues. The network does not go to black just because there's no sports, and there's definitely a lot of talk. And I think one of the challenges is sports is that kind of a place where people will go to kind of escape the conversation a little bit. So I think that trying to find the balance of there are no sports, but you still want to give people the escape, and you don't just want to talk about the pandemic and what's going on. And I think that, trying to find that balance, I think that one of the things that this has really shown from a media standpoint is how real athletes are real people. People who work in the media industry are real people. Everyone's been definitely impacted by this. And I think it's just trying to find those stories to still make it interesting for people, and at the same time, give them a little bit of a break in terms of always hearing the same things over and over again. And one thing that's been really interesting too that's been fascinating, I think, is the role of technology. Like, had this happened, let's say 10 years ago, you probably would have had networks in black, because there's only so many ways. Because if you have a mandate to not have people work at facilities, or you're trying to keep minimal amount of staff working in facilities, then you just wouldn't have had people working. What you see happening right now is, and I think this is one of that across all media networks and all media platforms, they've done so incredibly well, is, everyone's working from their home. Everyone's living room has turned into a studio set. Everyone's family has turned into camera people and stage managers. It's just, it's really the best example of like the show must go on that I think I've ever seen, and technology and where we are. And it's kind of forced everyone to even take that into a new level of, because I think 4 weeks ago we would have been like, oh, I don't know, doing a whole show via Skype, that sounds a little, sketchy. And now it's like, let's do it. So it's really just changed people's perspective on what you can put on the screen, that it's okay not to be perfect, that a living room makes a great set. So it's remarkable. But I'm sure every media student is really going to be studying this time, not just for the pandemic, but what media turned into, because it's a really interesting phase right now.
Definitely. And so you talked a lot about showing these viewers that you still can have a show and have the show go on. What kind of messages have you been getting from your viewers?
It's so on the sports side, the messages have been that they miss it. Like they, above everything, sports has really been that it's such a bonding thing. So no matter who you are, male, female, race, anything, that sports is this incredibly bonding thing. And I think people realize like, wow, we really miss it, because it's that one thing that, it's not on Netflix and you're not DVRing it. It's one of the few things that are left that you want to experience together as a group, and live. Like you really, you follow on Twitter to see what the conversation is, and people are really missing it. And in fact, our marketing team just launched out a lot of the messages from the fans, and they're all like, come back, like we miss you, like, and they're really, I think, realizing the super special bond that people have with live sports. So that's been really, really interesting and rewarding at the same time to see.
I mean, I definitely saw a funny internet meme that was going around on Twitter, and it was, it's been a very hard time when you get excited for games that the outcome to, because they've been having a lot of reruns on. And I know that I sat down in front of my TV and I've watched a basketball game, and I'm like, oh, this is a really close game. And my dad was like, this game happened like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So my next question is, what precautions has ESPN taken to keep everyone safe? I know that there's a recent report that Doris Burke actually just contracted COVID, and that you are obviously not traveling anymore. So what have you been doing? What has your team been doing? People in the studio?
Yeah, I mean, my team is essentially all working from home right now. So we are, very connected, but we are, working from home. And I think, again, ESPN's stance has been to keep as few people as possible kind of working at facilities. And that's just not only our US facility, those are, our facilities all around the world. So obviously there is a, really setting priorities on what people absolutely need to be in the facility and what content absolutely needs to be coming out of a studio, and everything else being very open to, people are the safest when they're home and they're, sheltering in place, and allowing people to do that. And really, the focus has been on that. So yeah, we've never had this many people work from home, but I think people are finding ways to communicate. Sorry.
Don't worry.
When you work from home.
So I do have a few more questions. And so one of them is, what has been the most surprising thing that you've encountered during this whole experience? I guess it's still a very ongoing experience, but.
I think a couple of things. I think that, again, it goes back to the role that technology has played. And the, we're TV people. We're all about it. There's been this, and this is going to sound wrong, but that everything has to be perfect and every studio has to look perfect. And I think one of the things that's been very interesting is it's not like that. It's about getting messages and making connections to the viewers. And it's okay if it's if they're FaceTiming on their phone. So I think the tolerance to just be focused on the message to viewers has been really special. And the other thing I think that's been interesting to see is sometimes there's this superstar stardom, right, to a lot of our talent and a lot of the people that are on camera. I think one of the things, because of how we've had to generate content, there's something that's really peeled away from everyone, and everyone has become human, right? Everyone, when you see people working out of their living room, they are people. They have the same challenges finding toilet paper at the store, and it's really humanized so many different levels, and everyone that's touched sports. So I think that's been, and I think that's probably allowed people to even miss it more, because these talent and the people that present these sports are fans just like they are. And I think, the way we've been presenting content and what this has all, led to is, we're just a bunch of fans. We're just a bunch of fans on FaceTime, on our phones, and we all miss sports. And I think it's been a really just kind of heartwarming transition that's gone on through obviously a very unsettling time. I mean, I think that goes without saying. It's kind of scary what's happening, but there's definitely this layer that's also brought a lot of people together, with one, true love in common.
Awesome. Thank you. I know that I definitely feel that gap in my life. It's definitely a bond that I've shared with my dad and my mom. But I do have one more question for you. And what is your advice to anyone wanting to go into broadcast journalism, either the production side or the on camera? What is your advice for them?
It's an amazing field. It is a changing field. I mean, I will say that what broadcast journalism was when, I was at Emerson in Marcia's classes, versus what it is today. It's not about TV. It's not about, radio. It's about content. And I think that's one of the, probably the biggest changes that's happened is when we think of what we do, we should always be focused on the approach that it's content that it should be populating whatever platform we're doing. And we also have to be students. It's such an amazing time right now, because I always, tell my team is we are all students of the industry. It doesn't matter how long we've been in it, because it's changing so rapidly and it's changing so quickly. And there's no such thing as a TV producer, and there's no such thing as a TV host. We're all content producers. We're all content hosts. And all of our goals are to figure out, like, yeah, we have content, but how does it work best on all of these different platforms? And we're just constantly learning. I think 20 years ago, it's like, this is how it's done on TV. And you kind of were good with that for a while. Now it's every day there's a new platform that you have to learn how to produce for, because it's not one size fits all. And you have to be, very open to, okay, this is how I used to produce on here. How the heck do I produce for here? And what do people want on here? And it's just, again, every day there's some kind of new platform, some type of new thing. And you have to be constantly adjusting what you're doing. And you have to be open to that. Otherwise, you're really not going to make it in this field. But it's also one of the most, rewarding, fun, engaging, all of those fields you could ever go into.
Awesome. And so is there anything else that you'd like to add or you'd like to tell us?
Media is just wonderful. I love media, and video will continue to play such a big role in our lives. And just never stop learning. I mean, I'm a social network addict. I'm constantly I love watching what people do across all platforms. I edit video for nonprofits because I can't get enough of video consumption. But you really have to love this world. It's I always tell people, career days, if you want a 9-to-5 Monday through job, media. So if that's really what you want, then you are going in the wrong direction. You really have to love this, but it also, you never ever stop learning, ever. I still remember Marcia's words from many years ago, and I still apply them to what I do. But it's just different. It's just different.
Thank you so much, Maria. So thank you, Maria Soares, for taking the time to talk with me. Thank you for the work that you're doing to keep us informed and safe and to keep sports coming out to the world. And so thank you for watching this episode of Reporting from the Frontline of a Pandemic. I've been talking with Maria Soares. Please stay safe and have a great day. I'm Katie Rhee.